Yeah, I want to present an article that was also published by one of the liberal media outlets, indicating from a national survey by people who have the opportunity to keep such stats that because of the pandemic, a number of the children who were doing off-site online learning have not been able to maintain their regular grade status. And I'll show you the video, and then we'll talk a little bit about the success that we have had here at the ATLAH Church in terms of our online and Zoom type of learning structures. So, Mr. Engineer, if you'll run that clip for us, please.
This report confirms what every parent was worried about. What's your number one takeaway?
My number one takeaway is that we really have a problem on our hands. The gains that we're seeing across this year, there were some, but they are not on par with what we see in a typical year. And when we get to the end of the year, the declines we're seeing relative to a more normal year suggest the kind of growth that it's going to take to catch up is a multi-year effort. And I think we need to be realistic as we're going back to the classroom this coming fall, that we are just starting the process of recovery and we have a long battle ahead of us.
Jeff, take us to Harlem. Our most vulnerable kids more behind than they already were. You see this day in and day out. What are you seeing right now in the classroom?
I'm seeing that there are priority children in Harlem and in communities like Harlem around this country that simply haven't shown up at all. They haven't attended school remotely or in person. It's a significant number of children we should be concerned about. Children with special needs, we know this year has been a disaster for those kids. Students who are already struggling beforehand, we know have suffered the most. And there's one thing, I'm going to come on your show, Stephanie. I never like to correct you on your own show, but this is what I'm going to say. We actually do know what happened to those students who weren't coming to school. It's worse than what Karen is reporting. You can bet your bottom dollar those children are actually further behind. And this should be a signal. I mean, this is, Karen, thank you. Break the glass, pull the alarm. We've got to do something, and it's not going to be a short-term intervention. And if schools who were failing before continue to do what didn't work, we're going to see an even worse gap growing in particularly students of color, poor students across this country. We as educators, we've got to really take this study seriously, and we've got to act differently.
But Jeffrey, you didn't need this study to know this. You've been joining me on this program for the last year, sounding this very alarm. You said no summer off. These schools in vulnerable communities need to have full-time summer school. We need to treat this as an emergency now. It didn't happen. Why?
Didn't happen because I think we didn't have the leadership at the top demanding that this needs to happen. So your segment that just preceded this, you were talking about businesses demanding folks get vaccinated, whether they wanted to or not, because that's what's good for their business. Our schools needed to run summer program. Here at the Harlem Children's Zone, tomorrow is our last day of full summer school because we assessed our students. We figured out who were the most vulnerable. We mandated that they come to school all of July. And now we're going to have our more camp time for the next few weeks going on. There'll still be some support. We should have been doing this all around the country. We didn't have the leaders step up. Yes, teachers are tired. Yes, we had to think differently. I agree. But this is something we could have done. We just lack the will to get this done.
Karen, Jeff is saying leaders didn't step up, and as a result, our kids have fallen down. We are headed back to school in the fall.
Okay.
What do we need
what we're going to experience going forward is that students are going to miss a year of development, if not 2 years of development. And so we're going to see a lessening of the educational abilities going into college if they happen to make it 5-10 years from now. I want to say this. I know a lot of people think it's boasting and self-serving, and I can't prevent you from thinking that. I pray that you would not. But I have to tell you, Jeffrey Canada, who is lauded for his establishing an education system here in Harlem called Success Academy, and it's a failure. It's an absolute failure. But I have to say this, and I will say it. that the teachers, the principals that we have over the various divisions here at the ATLAH education system, we can educate New York City or educate Harlem. And we were able to advance our students during the remote learning process. None fell behind. And we had our best school year yet. Perhaps someone will wake up and say, wait a minute. Let's stop hating on Pastor Manning. Let's stop trying to destroy the great work he's doing and opening up and cracking these great learning institutions with the children he is and his staff that they're educating. Let's sit down with him and ask him to help the children. Let's put aside these politicians and pinch-nosed Negroes and preachers and everyone else need to say, let's put aside our jealousy or whatever angst or animosities we have towards the man who is standing in spite of everything we've done to try to knock him down. He's still standing. And his students are going to be accepted at Yale and Juilliard and New York Law School and New York University and St. John's and every place. If he's doing that and we're not able to do it, let's put aside our angst, whatever we have against him, and let him help our children, because we're not helping them, they're failing. Maybe someone will pick up on that and decide to come and talk with me. I want to ask you to come up close for just 1 second. And I want to talk to 3-year and older veterans of the Trust in the Lord Hour, the Open Rewards Prayer Meeting, the Manna Report, and the Pulpit of Power, those 4 ministries that we do every week, producing at least 20 different ministries or sermons every week. If you are a 3-year or older veteran, by old I mean 4 years, 5 years, 6 years, 7 years, 10 years, 12 years, older veteran of any of these ministries that we do on a daily basis every week, and you are not a supporter, you've not joined with the ministry to give to pledge your support and your alignment with what we've been teaching. My question is why? You've had 3 years to observe us. You've had 3 years to listen to us on a daily basis, all weekend, all day long, any hour of the day. We're broadcasting. You've had 3 years to watch our various successes. You've 3 years to watch our ups and downs. You've had 3 years to listen to the tenor or the consistency of what we have said, whether we are consistent or whether we're all over the chart in what we do and what we believe. You've had 3 years to watch people around us who have made the commitment to join with our ministry and church and to financially support it. And by the way, I want to give another shout out to Brother Jesse Munoz out there in San Bernardino, along with Goldfinger, who is just extraordinary giver, and others that do extraordinary giving to our ministry. My question is to you, if you are a 3-year veteran or older, why haven't you joined? Why haven't you committed? And I suppose some of the reasons would say, well, Pastor Man, I belong to another church. And why? How could you, after 3 years of hearing me teach about the Sabbath, about righteousness, about the tribulation, and listen to me faithfully as you do, and still go sit up in another pastor's face? How could you be? It's like a woman sleeping with 2 men. One she likes during the week and the other she likes on the weekend. It's hypocritical. How could you do that? I mean, essentially, you started 3 months ago. I can understand. Well, it may take you some time to evaluate. It may take you some time to look at me, to discover, who I am. You say, well, Pastor, that's not that I don't belong to another church or ministry. I'm with you. But there's some things you say I like, and there's some things you say I don't like. Why? Why is it that you've made a decision that there's some things that you don't like are stronger than the things that you do like? I am not a psychiatrist, but I am an analyst. And I have to tell you, I analyze the world, understanding. The understanding and wisdom tells me this, that if there are things that a person such as myself that I am saying, there is no room to disagree with what I am saying unless your purpose is to find something to disagree with. Let's say, for instance, you say, well, I like the fact that you talk about Obama, but I don't like the fact that you talk about Trump. Let's say, for instance, you're one of those, right? Well, the purpose, it isn't that you just like what I say about Obama, but don't like what I say about Trump. What it is that you are looking for a reason to support Trump. It isn't that you don't like it. It's just that you don't like the fact that I'm saying something about him. It isn't that what I'm saying is wrong. Let me put it that way. It isn't what I'm saying is wrong or indifferent. You know it's right. But you've lived your life, or you've come up, or you've been raised with a doctrine that you can really live in a false reality. That's where you are. You've been raised in a doctrine that you can live in a false reality. That is to say, you can like the truth about Obama, but you don't like the truth about Trump. And it's the same truth. It's the same truth. There's no difference. But because you have been indoctrinated to live in a false reality, you are really a person who needs psychological debriefing. But trust me, there are zillions of people around the world who live that way. There are people who know what I'm saying about Trump or Obama is right. They know it, but they choose to ignore it based on the fact that they find a reality that isn't true, and they've settled in there. Say, well, that's one of the reasons why I've not made a commitment, because, I don't like the fact, I wish you would support what I support. But the truth of the matter is, then why do you come? You've given 3 years or more of your life to listen to me? 3 years of your life to listen to me? And you're not tired of listening to me yet? And you've given 3 years of your life, and over the past 3 years, your life has been greatly upgraded. You've learned, you've been educated, you've been enlightened. And let me say this to you. If you make the commitment, say, well, Pastor, I'm joining with you, and I'm going to support, I'm going to do the tithe and offering, I'm going to do the first fruit, I'm going to keep the Sabbath, your life is going to soar. Now, listen to me very carefully. Now, I'm not going to leave you alone after this. Listen to me very carefully. You come as often as you come over the past 3 years because you're being helped. You're being educated. You're being enlightened. Right? Right. But the thing that you like, whether you say, well, I like what you say about Obama, but I don't like what you say about Trump. You do the same thing with the Word of God, such as you like the things I say, the teachings that I say, the way I explain the Bible, the way I break it all down and make it clear. But when it comes to things like money or tithing and offering or the Sabbath, well, that is also true, but because of your false reality, because you really need a psychological debriefing, because of your false reality, you choose not to believe the tithe or the first fruit or the Sabbath. Now, it isn't that it isn't true. It's just true with all the other things I've said. But you live in a false reality where you try to ignore the truth about the tithe, and so you don't do it. But everything else I say is good to go. Everything I ever say is good to go, good enough to share with your friends. It makes you laugh. It educates you. It enlightens you. But the tithe, well, and the full commitment to the ministry, well, the first fruit offerings, well, the Sabbath, that's all true as well. But you have chosen, and you've been raised and indoctrinated to have a dual reality, which is dangerous. Jesus said this, and I'll leave you. He said, I would rather you be either hot or cold, but not lukewarm. You're lukewarm. You have a dual reality. He said, if you're lukewarm, I'll spit you out of my mouth. I would rather you be completely stomped down against Pastor Manny, trying to take him down. Be fully against him. Be against him with all of your strength. Or be fully for him with all of your strength. But don't be in the middle, somewhere lukewarm. You're better than to be spit out of the mouth of Jesus if you're lukewarm. So what's it going to be? You're going to make the commitment and grow and be even better blessed, or you're going to continue to walk in the lukewarm spit of the mouth of the Savior. I'm James David Manning, everybody. I'm the Lord's servant.